What if the next global war is not fought only with bombs and jets, but with timing, strategy, and patience? What if one superpower is waiting for the other to exhaust itself before making its decisive move? Assalamu alaikum, I am Kundi, and you are watching Pulse America News. Today we are going to discuss a serious geopolitical situation that analysts around the world are debating. This is not about promoting war, it is about understanding strategy, power balance, and the risks involved if tensions continue to rise. There are growing discussions in global policy circles that China may be carefully observing the current tensions between the United States and Iran. Some intelligence-based discussions suggest that if America gets deeply involved in a prolonged conflict in the Middle East, especially with Iran, it could put pressure on its military stockpiles. Modern warfare depends heavily on precision-guided missiles, air defense systems, and naval deployments. If those systems are used at a high rate in one theater, it can affect readiness in another region. Reports in recent years have shown that the United States has supplied significant military equipment to allies in different conflicts, including support related to Ukraine and security cooperation with Israel. Missile defense systems such as Patriot batteries and other advanced interceptors are complex and expensive. They are not unlimited. If a long conflict were to happen, production capacity and supply chains would become a key factor. This is not speculation alone. Defense analysts often warn that industrial capacity matters just as much as battlefield performance. Now, some commentators believe that China could see such a situation as an opportunity. The Taiwan issue remains one of the most sensitive topics in international relations. Beijing considers Taiwan part of its territory, while the United States maintains strategic ambiguity and provides defensive support to Taiwan. If America were heavily tied down in another major conflict, some analysts argue that it might reduce its ability to respond quickly in the Indo-Pacific region. That is where the strategic calculation becomes complicated. The idea being discussed is simple. If missile stocks are reduced due to intense usage in one region, then both offensive and defensive capabilities may temporarily weaken. For example, to intercept incoming missiles, advanced systems must have ready interceptors available. If those interceptors are used in large numbers, replenishment takes time. In a scenario where Iran launches missiles towards regional targets, defensive systems would need to respond rapidly. That consumes inventory. There have also been discussions about drone warfare. In recent conflicts, smaller and cheaper drones have sometimes forced the use of more expensive interception systems. This creates an imbalance in cost. When a low-cost drone requires a high-cost missile to intercept, it pressures defense budgets and stockpiles. Military planners worldwide are now rethinking this model. They are developing layered defense systems to avoid such imbalance. Another argument circulating in geopolitical debates is that financial markets react strongly to war. Oil prices often rise when tensions increase in the Middle East. Stock markets can become volatile. Investors look for safe havens. In such instability, global currencies can fluctuate. Some experts believe that China is also working long-term to strengthen the international position of its currency. Any major disruption to the global economy could create new financial alignments. However, currency dominance is not changed overnight. It requires trust, stability, and global trade confidence. There are also reports that intelligence agencies in multiple countries are investigating cases of espionage and technology leaks. Modern fighter jets like the F-35 represent decades of research and advanced stealth technology. Whenever there are allegations of data leaks or foreign training involvement, it raises concerns for national security. Governments take such matters very seriously. However, it is important to rely on verified information rather than rumors, because misinformation can spread quickly during tense periods. Some political observers suggest that the United States may prefer that regional allies take the first step in any escalation scenario, while Washington provides support from behind. This is seen by some as a way to limit direct exposure. Others argue that this approach still carries risks because alliances often pull nations into deeper involvement than initially planned. History shows that conflicts can expand in unexpected ways. At the same time, Iran has repeatedly stated that it will defend itself and continue resistance if attacked. Iranian officials have emphasized that their political system is not dependent on a single individual. They argue that even if leadership changes occur, national policy would continue. This message is meant to show internal resilience and long-term determination. Whether one agrees or disagrees with Iran's policies, it is clear that the country has invested heavily in missile development and asymmetric strategies over the years. Critics of military intervention often warn that underestimating a nation's willingness to endure hardship can lead to prolonged conflict. Iran has faced economic sanctions for years. Its economy has struggled in many areas. Its passport ranking and international trade access have been affected. Yet the leadership continues to project defiance. That psychological factor plays a role in strategic calculations. When discussing the morale of military personnel, analysts also remind us that long deployments are exhausting. Service members who spend months away from families face mental and physical stress. Naval crews deployed for extended periods must operate under strict routines. This does not mean they are unwilling to perform their duty. It simply highlights the human element in modern warfare. Military strength is not just hardware, it is also morale, logistics, and political support at home. China's approach to global strategy has often been described as patient and long-term. Instead of direct confrontation, it sometimes focuses on economic expansion, infrastructure projects, technological growth, and diplomatic partnerships. If tensions rise elsewhere, Beijing may choose to strengthen its position quietly rather than openly escalate. However, no country wants a full-scale global war. The economic consequences would affect everyone. The Taiwan Strait remains a flashpoint. Military exercises, naval patrols, and airspace activities have increased in recent years. The United States continues to maintain a presence in the Indo-Pacific. Regional allies such as Japan and South Korea also play a role in maintaining balance. Any sudden escalation would have massive economic consequences because Taiwan is a key player in semiconductor manufacturing. Disruption there would impact global supply chains. Some voices claim that if the United States becomes deeply entangled in a Middle Eastern conflict, it could struggle to manage simultaneous crises. Others argue that America still has unmatched global reach and alliance networks. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. Modern superpower competition is complex. It includes cyber warfare, economic sanctions, trade policies, space capabilities, and artificial intelligence development. Missiles are only one part of the equation. There is also the question of regime change narratives. In past decades, attempts to reshape political systems through external pressure have produced mixed results. Many experts caution that internal dynamics of a country are far more complicated than outsiders assume. Stability, national identity, and historical memory influence how societies respond to pressure. It is important to remember that much of what circulates online during tense times can be exaggerated. Responsible discussion requires separating confirmed information from speculation. Governments often keep strategic details classified. Public debates sometimes rely on incomplete data. Therefore, viewers should analyze news carefully and avoid spreading unverified claims. What is clear is that the global order is under strain. Multiple conflicts, economic rivalries, and technological competition are happening at the same time. China and the United States are the two largest economies in the world. Their relationship affects global trade, security, and financial systems. Any major miscalculation would have worldwide impact. From a strategic viewpoint, some analysts argue that if one power sees another overstretched, it might test boundaries. That does not automatically mean invasion or war. It could mean diplomatic pressure, economic deals, or regional influence moves. Strategy is often about timing rather than immediate action. As observers, we must recognize that war is not a game. It brings human suffering, displacement, and long-term instability. The focus should always be on de-escalation and dialogue. Even during rivalry, communication channels remain important to prevent misunderstandings. The current situation shows how interconnected the world has become. A conflict in one region can influence energy markets in another. A decision in Washington can affect stock exchanges in Asia. A military exercise near Taiwan can impact global semiconductor prices. This is why policymakers must calculate risks carefully. Some believe that the next decade will define whether competition between major powers remains controlled or turns dangerous. Military readiness, economic resilience, technological innovation, and diplomatic skill will all matter. Nations are preparing for multiple scenarios, but preparation does not mean war is inevitable. In conclusion, the discussion about China watching America's potential involvement with Iran highlights the complexity of modern geopolitics. Missile inventories, alliance politics, financial markets, and at the same time, another serious layer of this debate focuses on military technology and preparedness. Modern conflicts are not fought the way wars were fought decades ago. Today, everything depends on integrated systems. Satellites guide missiles. Cyber networks support air defense. Artificial intelligence assists in surveillance. If one part of this system is disrupted, the entire chain can feel pressure. That is why some analysts argue that any prolonged confrontation in one region could create vulnerabilities somewhere else. There is also discussion around naval power. Aircraft carriers represent strategic dominance, but they are also high-value assets. Protecting them requires multiple layers of defense, including destroyers, submarines, radar systems, and air patrols. If tensions rise in multiple theaters at once, military planners must divide resources carefully. This creates difficult decisions. No country has unlimited capacity. Even the strongest military must prioritize. In addition, industrial production speed is becoming a key issue. During peacetime, defense manufacturing runs at a steady pace, but in high-intensity conflict, demand rises sharply. Increasing production of precision missiles, interceptors, and advanced aircraft parts takes time. Factories must expand, supply chains must be secured, skilled labor must be available. These are not overnight adjustments. Strategic planners are aware of this challenge. Some geopolitical commentators believe that China studies these factors very closely. Instead of rushing into direct confrontation, it evaluates economic data, military readiness reports, and diplomatic alignments. Timing in global politics can be as powerful as firepower. A nation that acts too early may face resistance. A nation that waits too long may lose opportunity. Therefore, calculations are extremely detailed. The Taiwan situation remains sensitive because it involves identity, sovereignty, and global trade. Taiwan produces a significant share of the world's advanced semiconductors. Any disruption there would not only affect regional security, but also global electronics, automobiles, telecommunications, and defense industries. This makes the Taiwan Strait not just a military issue, but an economic lifeline for many countries. Another angle often discussed is alliance credibility. If a major power is seen as unable to support its partners during crisis, other nations may rethink their strategic alignment. On the other hand, overextension can weaken a country internally. Balancing commitments without exhausting resources is one of the hardest tasks in foreign policy. Industrial warfare is also part of modern competition. Sanctions, trade restrictions, export controls, and technology bans have become common tools. These measures can hurt economies without firing a single shot. However, they can also backfire if alternative systems develop. Countries are now trying to diversify supply chains and reduce dependence on single markets. There is also the cyber dimension. Critical infrastructure such as power grids, communication networks, and financial systems are potential targets in high-tension scenarios. Cyber attacks can disrupt daily life without traditional military engagement. This increases uncertainty because attribution can be complex. Nations invest heavily in cyber defense to prevent such vulnerabilities. Public opinion plays a powerful role as well. Democratic societies especially must consider how citizens respond to long conflicts. War fatigue can develop if objectives are unclear or if costs become too high. Governments therefore communicate carefully and often emphasize defensive motives rather than offensive ones. Maintaining domestic support is as important as maintaining military strength. At the same time, it is important not to exaggerate predictions. Major powers understand the cost of full-scale war. Economic interdependence between large economies like China and the United States is significant. Trade volumes, investment flows, and financial linkages create mutual risk. A direct conflict would harm both sides deeply. That reality encourages caution even amid rivalry. Strategic analysts also talk about deterrence. The idea of deterrence is to prevent conflict by showing capability and resolve. Military exercises, defense partnerships, and public statements are often designed to send signals, but signals can be misinterpreted. That is why diplomatic communication channels remain open even during tension. Another important factor is regional actors. Countries in the Middle East, Europe, and Asia have their own interests. They are not passive observers. Their decisions can influence escalation or de-escalation. Energy producers watch oil prices carefully. Export-driven economies monitor shipping routes. Smaller nations often try to maintain balance between larger powers. Some experts argue that the next era of competition will focus less on direct invasion and more on influence, technology leadership, and economic architecture. Control over supply chains, digital infrastructure, rare earth minerals, and advanced research may define power in the coming decades. Military strength remains crucial, but it is part of a larger strategic picture. It is also worth noting that narratives can shape perception. Social media spreads information rapidly. During times of tension, dramatic claims attract attention. Responsible viewers should verify sources and avoid emotional reactions. Geopolitical analysis requires patience and evidence-based thinking. From a long-term perspective, global stability depends on restraint. History shows that miscalculation between major powers can escalate quickly, but history also shows that diplomacy can prevent disaster. Strategic competition does not automatically mean war. It can remain controlled through agreements, communication, and mutual understanding of red lines. In this complex environment, every move is watched carefully. Military exercises are analyzed, budget allocations are studied, political speeches are examined word by word. Analysts build scenarios, but real decisions depend on leadership judgment. A single choice at the wrong moment can change the direction of history. Ultimately, the conversation about China potentially benefiting from American overextension highlights the fragile balance of modern geopolitics. Power is not only about weapons, it is about economy, alliances, morale, technology, and global perception. No strategy guarantees success. Every option carries risk. The hope of the international community is that strategic competition remains within peaceful boundaries. The world has already experienced enough instability. Economic recovery, technological progress, and social development require cooperation, not destruction. Even rivals share responsibility to avoid catastrophic conflict. Thank you for staying with Pulse America News. I am Kundi. This discussion is intended to inform and encourage thoughtful debate, not to promote hostility. Share your views respectfully in the comments. Like and share this video if you found it valuable. Stay aware of global developments and always seek balanced information from credible sources.
The future will depend on wise decisions made today.